Long gone are the days of waiting to be seen in a doctor's office only to have that awkward conversation with your healthcare provider. WISP gives you access to sexual and reproductive healthcare from the comfort of your home. Get treatment for BV, yeast infections, UTIs, and much more delivered directly to your home or ready for pickup at your local pharmacy in less than 3 hours. The best part? WISP is discreet, convenient, and you don't need medical insurance to receive care or prescription medication. Visit us today at hellowisp.com.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. This week on the podcast, we are going to do something a bit different. I am so excited to interview Yanely Espinal. She is a money expert, a financial educator, a podcaster, and a political advocate for financial literacy and education. You might know her on Instagram as Miss Be Helpful. She is a sponsor on a bipartisan financial literacy bill, which myself and Representative Ken King have joint authored. We are going to talk about the bill. We're going to talk about the political process from advocacy to lobbying to organizing, plus our overlapping work in the finance space. I hope you enjoy. Yanely, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so excited to get to talk to you.
Girl, I'm so excited because, first of all, investing as a topic is such a passion for both of us. I have your book like right behind me in my bookshelf, but then also the fact that we get to work together for this Texas bill, it's just like the perfect way to kick it off. So I love that you're having me. I'm excited for this chat, girl.
Yes, I'm so excited as well. I wanted to really bring our listeners into the fold of what you're doing because I think it's incredible work. And I think that so many of us don't know how to participate in politics in this way. And now that I'm here in the House and I'm getting to experience this world, I understand the importance of advocating here on a local level inside the building, testifying on bills, having someone carry a bill. I want to talk to you about how this space opened up, how you got started. Most folks that are listening right now, don't have any idea that they can even advocate for a bill or work to get a bill passed. We tend to think that this is something that an elected official has to do, but that's not the case. Can you walk us through how you got involved in politics and how this journey unfolded for you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. You are an inspiration to me. So for you to say that I'm inspiring is like, girl, what? Your story is so amazing. And I think that we need more conversations like this. So just so glad it's happening. But, my story definitely goes back to like I was a regular high school kid who didn't really know much about money, politics, really much of anything. But I got so lucky and I got a scholarship to college. And, I was one of those like very nerdy kids. I was always applying myself. I took a lot of AP classes. So I always thought like I'm going to go to college, but I didn't know if my family would be able to afford it. And so I had a lot of really good support around making sure that I understood if you're a high achieving student and you come from a low income family, I'm first gen, my parents have always been low income and they're immigrants from the Dominican Republic. So like that mix was able to really put me on a path to get scholarship money. So I didn't have to really pay for tuition, room and board or anything like that. And while I was in college, I knew that I wanted to do something with public service. Like I thought I wanted to work in museum education, but I interned at some museums and I really didn't like it. it. So I ended up getting recruited straight into a program called Teach for America right when I graduated college. And that, I think, was kind of the start of me just understanding like education from a different perspective. Because every one of us, we think we know how schools work because we've been students in the seats, right, in the schools. But it really changes when you become the teacher or when you become an administrator. And so working in a school teaching students, that gave me my first like peek into how education has really not changed for decades. And like when I was in school as a student, we weren't learning anything about financial literacy, money management, nothing about how money works, banking, your credit system, like nothing. And so when I was a teacher, I realized, okay, how can we get more of this into the classroom? And I really didn't know how to do that. I was doing my own little projects, like I would do social media stuff. I would do workshops around the community. But in 2018, I was contacted to be a guest speaker on a podcast at a nonprofit organization called Next Gen Personal Finance, which for short is NGPF. And I never heard of it. I didn't know what it was, but I joined the podcast as a guest. And I just talked about like my passion for financial literacy and why I started my YouTube channel and why I was doing content on Instagram around this and that we needed more conversations around it. And come to find out, that organization had an entire curriculum for financial literacy for high school for free. So they essentially are a nonprofit using their money to create curriculum, videos, arcade games, lesson plans for teachers, exams and quizzes, like anything that a teacher would need to teach financial literacy was pre-created and available for free on the website. So I started playing around with it and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I wish I had this when I was a teacher. And I actually joined full time in 2018, a few months after I was a guest on the podcast. I joined the team full time. And so I started working with training teachers because a lot of the teachers who want to teach the class, they don't know about financial literacy themselves. We can talk about that a little more later, but we started doing teacher training and I would teach investing, basics, advanced investing, all of these courses, taxes, insurance, and different workshops. And then we looked around and we're like, you know what? It's so great that we're giving all of this financial literacy resources and curriculum and everything for free. But a lot of teachers are not going to use it if they are not required to teach this class, because then they have to kind of go above and beyond their job and make time to learn this content, make room in their class, which already has a bunch of other things they have to teach. And so there's not a lot of teachers that are going to do it. So in 2021, we decided, you know what, we need to find a way to allow teachers to make sure that they have room because it's required to teach it. So how do we do that? Teachers were already doing a lot of advocacy on the grassroots level, but we knew we needed to kind of go a little bit from both levels, grassroots and top down also. So in 2021, the organization that I work at, which is called NGPF, we created an affiliated organization. So we have another nonprofit, which is kind of like our sister, our cousin. And that organization is called the NGPF Mission 2030 Fund. I also work there. So I got a lot of jobs. So essentially, that's how I got into this education and politics work, because in 2021, we started actually working with public policy officials, leaders, lawmakers like yourself in all of these different states. And crazy to think about the stats, because in 2018, when I started, there were only like 5 states that required financial literacy in high school. Then in 2020, during the pandemic, everybody was talking about how we need financial literacy. We're not really prepared for this. There were 8 states. So 3 more had passed a requirement by law. Today, there's 27 states. And because of your bill with Rep. King, because of House Bill 27 in Texas, we're very, very close to Texas becoming state number 28. So we've come a long way in just a few years.
Yeah. So, we've tried to pass this bill before in the state of Texas. By we, I just mean legislators in the state of Texas, not myself personally. But it hasn't passed, and there was actually a big fight because of the development on curriculum surrounding it. So that was really the biggest form of resistance that we had around not having a standalone financial literacy course. Because as it stands right now, Chairman Ken King previously passed a bill for a financial literacy course that was an option, and then the economic course was also an option. And what we found was that teachers were leaning towards just teaching economics and not teaching the finance portion of the course as an easy way out to circumvent financial literacy as, not being an accessible curriculum for teachers. So, this was something in my heart that I ran on, that I wanted to pass and strengthen. And it was serendipity, God, the universe, whatever you believe
everything,
in,
all
that
at once.
everything, that, we were already aware of one another's work because you're also a published author. And I definitely want to share with our audience about your book and where they can find more of your work. But getting to, collaborate on this effort, and also, having to be strategic and having to let go of my ego because I wanted to pass this bill under my name. That's an ego thing. And it's not that I wanted to pass it under my name, because first and foremost is always the children. But it was something that I ran on. And as politicians, we're encouraged, you have to file your own bills because this goes under your record. So who cares if Chairman Ken King has the bill? Who cares if, Representative Mihaela Plessa had a different version of the bill? You file your own. And I just really didn't see that as a very intelligent way to make this pass. And I think both of us aligned on that.
Yes. But honestly, you have to give yourself so much credit for that, because it's very rare that, especially a fresh lawmaker, to come in and not jump to straight creating their own bill, naming it after themselves. Because you're right, it is a little bit of ego, but more than ego, it's passion. Like, this is an issue that you really care about. So it makes sense for you to jump in and go, yes, I'm going straight to creating the Linda Garcia financial literacy bill for all Texans, and like going that route. But when we spoke, you already said to me, like, I don't think that makes the most sense. And I was like, you are absolutely right. Trust me, when you're working in politics, I've learned that you have to make sure that you have a path to success. That's the most important thing, because otherwise your issue fails. It's either failing or succeeding. So if you already know that you have the path to success outlined, then your job as a politician should be to get on the winning wagon and make sure that you align with the path to success. Now, of course, you want to make sure along the way you're doing everything in a way that aligns with your values, right? You don't want to compromise your values. But if you can figure out a way to do that and still end with success for your issue, that's really the best route. And I'm so glad that we were able to like build trust right away, work together. And like, I knew it was going to go far, but it took you making that initial choice to put your ego aside, to put your own maybe potential name on a bill to the side and focus on the issue succeeding. And that's huge, huge.
It really is. And, at the beginning of all of this, we didn't know where any of us were going to land in terms of what committees we were going to be in, the amount of power that we were going to hold. And it just so happened that you all had, picked Chairman Ken King, which is incredible. And then he just so happened to be in a lot of favor during this session. And so it really worked for us. We got to have it be a priority bill for the speaker, which is incredible. But I want to take it a little bit back, and I want to really help folks understand how they can possibly move forward with passions that they have in their personal lives that they would like to see put that energy and passion into perhaps passing a bill. So can we really simplify the process of you, your team, Next Gen Personal Finance, hiring a lobby, and the basics of you coming in to do the hearing and things like that, so that folks can see that all of this is truly accessible when we get organized and understand the process?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is it really does take one of two things. One is a ton of commitment, dedication, and passion to grassroots organizing, because that's the only way that you're going to get attention on the issue, is if there's so much of a movement, like truly momentum around it. There's numbers behind it. So many people willing to text, email, tweet, like all of that makes noise. And lawmakers cannot ignore that. So if you don't have that, then the second thing that you can still use to succeed is a lot of money. So either a lot of money or a lot of clout, right? You need one of them. So we have been very fortunate because our organization is fully funded with an endowment fund in place, which means that somebody put a lot of money into a fund and said, there's so much money in here that every year it grows a little bit. Just the interest on that, just the growth on it is what we're going to use for operating costs. And then the original amount that was invested in there will stay so that we can keep just working off of just the interest of just the growth on the account. Now, #goals, because eventually when we build enough wealth, we can do that for anything that we care a lot about. You can create an endowment fund for really any organization with any mission. It just so happens that our co-founder, Tim Ranzetta, was so passionate that every single student needs and deserves financial literacy that he had a lot of success as an entrepreneur and decided to take tens of millions of dollars and put them into an endowment fund strictly for financial literacy education. And that's where NGPF's funding came from. That's why we're able to give teachers curriculum for free, train the teachers for free, pay the teachers when they complete a certain number of hours of training. All of that comes from the endowment fund. And then there's also a separate pot of money for the NGPF Mission 2030 Fund, which is our affiliate organization, which is also a nonprofit. But as a structure, it's a 501c4. So that's a slightly different structure in the tax code, which does allow us to use the money from that fund to hire a lobbyist. And so on that side, with NGPF Mission 2030 Fund, my title is advocate. So I go state by state and advocate. But in order to just randomly pop into a state, I'm not from there. I'm not from Texas. So how am I going to be able to meet with a lawmaker and get them to meet with me and actually sit down and talk? They care about their constituents. That's who they serve. But when we hire a lobbyist, the lobbyist is able to go right straight into the Capitol and talk directly to each of the lawmakers who care about education. And so from there, our lobbyist was like, yeah, let's think about who might on the Democratic side. And I said, I got the perfect woman for you. Her name is Rep. Linda Garcia. I'm going to reach out to her right now on Instagram. We run in the same circles. She's incredible. And I know that she was just elected in Texas and she would be perfect. And so I was just so glad you jumped in. And so we knew, okay, Texas has a lot of momentum with the Republican Party right now. Can we find a Republican lawmaker who cares so much about public education that they would work towards this financial literacy bill for education so that we can make sure that this is a bipartisan issue? Our lobbyist was the one that went through the Capitol, going through all of those doors, knocking on doors, talking, and kind of sort of a little bit of an interview process, a little bit of trying to pick who's the right person that's going to care about this issue, who's going to really champion it. Because Rep, you know this, you all have so many issues. Sometimes you have 5 or 6 bills. You don't necessarily have always the time to be able to focus so much on the details. So we wanted to make sure it was going to be someone who really cared about it. That's how we identified Chairman King.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Now, again, there's 2 pathways, right? One of them is having a lot of money so that you can have access to lobbyists to help you push your issue. But the other way is grassroots organizing, and we use both. So we have 110,000 teachers across the country that use the free curriculum we have, and we activate them every chance we can, let them know which bills are moving so that they can email reps, they can email senators, so they can pay attention to the education committees in their state and if they're moving this or not. And they are tweeting, emailing, calling, everything that they can. To me, that's really where the power of us as a people comes in, really using our community and activating around issues that we really care about, like this one, like financial education.
Absolutely. I want to say that there's also a third pathway. I'm going to add another one.
Educate me. I want to add one. Yes.
But if you call your state representative, email your state representative, and it is something that you have conviction and passion about, your state representative is there to listen to you. Before, when I would hear people say, call your state representatives, call your, Congress folks, I would just think
ignore that.
Is that really going to help?
Gonna
really
work?
My phone call? And, yes, the answer is absolutely yes. Let me tell you. There is a process called open records, and any organization, anyone can request that there be open records on a certain topic for your office. And your office is then summoned. And by law, they're required to turn over all communication over a certain topic. And they're able to see how many times someone contacted you over a specific bill or over a specific issue. And if you have not spoken on that issue or taken action in the way that your constituents have wanted you to take action, then that can and most likely will be held against you.
As it should. That's amazing.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that for me as a representative, the most important people in this office that get to pull me off the floor, that get to interrupt whatever it is I'm moving through, is my constituents. If there is something that happened to my constituent, whether it was a tragedy or they understood something and they have a solution to a problem, and they communicate this and they're willing to work with me on it, that's a bill idea for me. I have to come up with bill ideas continuously. And so I get to then get this written up and make it one of my priority bills. And that doesn't require a lobbyist. I am the lobby for my own.
Yeah, for your own ideas.
For my own, for what is coming in through to my office. And so I just want to make sure that we're communicating that there's various ways for us to get involved and organize and move the needle. And so what happens, I kind of want to talk about this next step, is that once there is a bill idea in place, once the representative has decided to carry a bill, then the first step of the bill is for it to move through a committee.
That's right.
It doesn't automatically get to move through a committee, by the way. Representatives can file 100 bills.
Yeah.
And that's nice and showy. That's great. That looks great. But the reality is that, like we talked about before, there's going to be priority bills.
That's
it's going to be what you are emotionally connected to and you firmly believe in. Hopefully, that's the intention behind the bill. It's something that you want to champion. And so you're the one that's actually pushing, building relationships within the chamber, making sure that you're talking to both sides of the aisle so that everyone collectively can help you move your bill through whatever process it sits in. So before we get to vote on the House floor, it goes through committee, and it's my job to advocate for the bill to get presented in committee. When we are in committee, we then have folks come in from everywhere to testify, right? And so can you talk to us a little bit about the process of testifying and you coming in to do that and how it impacts the entire process?
Yes. So, this is the key, because this is the day when lawmakers get to hear from the public. Like, we get to come into the state capitol and tell them exactly what we believe and why we care, whether it is that we don't support a bill or whether we do and why. So it's very powerful to have public testimony. I will say a lot of people get discouraged of testifying because it can be such a process. You have to sign up, you have to register that you want to be on record to testify. And then sometimes they tell you a certain time. But as you know, Rep, you are on the floor. And sometimes it goes on. And sometimes it's like upon adjournment, which means that sometimes you have to wait for the floor, for them to close out all their business on the floor and then go into committees. And so that's when you would have that committee hearing that allows you to talk about that bill in that committee. So, for example, recently in Texas, the House Bill 27 was in the House Education Committee. And so I was able to testify there first. And from the House Education Committee hearing, it was then voted out. Yes, everybody who voted yes, a majority yes vote moves it out of the Education Committee, the House Education Committee, and sends it over to the House floor, which is where you and all of your colleagues, Rep, were able to vote. And that majority vote, which was incredible, like my hairs are standing to think of the numbers that you all got. The House voted it 140-1. That's freaking unanimous in my book. That's unanimous. That's everybody agreeing that, yes, this is so important. Then it moved over to the Senate Education Committee. That hearing happened We're talking on May 1st, so 2 days ago. So at the very end of April, which is so beautiful that all of this happened in April because April's Financial Literacy Month. It's just been amazing that it happened that way. But so then I traveled to Austin to testify in the Senate Education Committee hearing. Now, again, it starts with the committee, and the Senate Education folks have to agree. And if they all agree and vote it yes, it goes to the Senate floor for the entire Senate now to then vote. So this is the step that has just occurred with Texas House Bill 27. And that is really nerve-wracking because you have 2 minutes, you guys. You have 2 minutes to state your case and to do your testimony. So sometimes I write out what I want to say and I have like a thesis. I have like 5 pages and then I want to use data to make my argument stronger. And then it's like, girl, you got 2 minutes when the microphone goes to you and you have to make your case succinct, clear, passionate. That is beautiful because then that goes on public record. Right now, if you wanted to go look at the Senate Education Committee archives, you will find the video clip of me testifying in late April of 2025 in support of House Bill 27. If for any reason we want to go back onto the record and show in the archives who was supporting and who was not, hello, holding people accountable, like you said, we can do that because this is all on public record. And so, I always tell people, try and testify if you can, but I also recognize that it's a privilege. It is a privilege to be able to really practice civic engagement in our country because sometimes you have to take the whole day off from work. And some people cannot afford to do that. So I recognize my privilege and that's why I'm so passionate when I testify because I know that I'm testifying on behalf of so many voices who had to go to work and couldn't take the day off to come wait at the Capitol all day until the hearing happens and to then be able to speak. So that's why I really don't take it for granted when I get the chance to testify. And even if it's just 2 minutes, I bring my passion and I make sure you hear, why this is so, so important.
Yes. Thank you so much for explaining that. But more importantly, thank you so much for your advocacy and the work that you're doing. It's so important. I am obsessed with this bill. You know that. I think that this is the silver bullet to a lot of our country's issues.
Yes.
And I think that there's something magic that happens when you start to, learn financial literacy and begin to ingest it and begin to understand it. A lot of the times we think that we may not be good with money, and it's not that we're not good with money, it's that we haven't been taught, we haven't had access to the resources, and like everything else, working with money and learning about money is a practice. It's continuously changing and you're identifying new things about yourself and how you're reacting to a certain monetary experience. We just clocked in an official recession yesterday. And, this is a time where most folks panic. And it's important for us to understand that with financial literacy, we begin to learn that this is actually one of the most powerful times for startups, for new businesses, for anyone, honestly, that wants to change their perspective or change their current situation with money. It's a great opportunity to begin to get engaged and understand what is happening.
Absolutely.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by PACE, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Spotify.
The way I look at a recession is everything outside of you is shrinking. There's shrinkage that's taking place, right? We're having negative GDP, which means that our economy is slowing down in the way it's
growing.
Shrinking, exactly. And so what happens when the external starts to disappear, I really believe that it makes space for the internal, for your mind to start to think and expand. It's like cleaning out a closet or cleaning up your messy room or donating things and just making space for only the things you love. It really teaches you how to prioritize certain things, and it will put your brain in a space that will make you think different.
I love that.
It is such a big opportunity. Most businesses, new businesses, innovative businesses, they are started during a recession. And so I think we're at a really beautiful opportunity. I would love for you to share a little bit about your book and the work that you do and the financial literacy that you disseminate on all of your channels.
Yes. I never ever saw myself doing this kind of political advocacy at all, but I'm so glad I'm in it because it's just like such a cool world. No workday is the same as another. Every day is different. Every state has a unique strategy that you have to plan and act on to actually see success in these different states. So that keeps me on my toes. It keeps me at the edge of my seat. Like, okay, this is so different from what I've done before. And in teaching, when I was a teacher, it felt like the same thing day in and day out. Now, I love teaching. Shout out to all my teachers. But for me personally, I like thrive on new challenges and something different every day versus like the same routine every day. So I knew, okay, this is really something I'm going to be passionate about because of how much it keeps you on your toes. But going back, like, I didn't even know how to get started talking about financial education. I had paid off some credit card debt on my own, and I had like read all these books about money, and I was just very passionate about it. So I started creating YouTube videos on my channel, Miss Be Helpful. And then I started getting, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 subscribers, comments from people all over the world saying that my videos help them understand money better and how to budget better. And, the difference between a debit card and a credit card, just basic things that some people just never really get taught. And then from there, I was like, so many of my subscribers, they keep asking me if I have a book. Oh, do you have a book? Do you have a book? And I was like, no, I don't have a book. But then I said, you know what? I'm going to say yes. Next time they ask me, do you have a book? I'm going to say, yes, I do have a book coming soon because it's, in business, right? If there's an opportunity in the market, people are asking you for something, stop saying, no, it doesn't exist and create it. Like there's a demand for it. So I said, I'm going to write a book. And I decided to do that. But when it comes to writing, I'm so critical of myself. I'm so specific about like the grammar and the spelling. Everything has to be perfect. I'm just so harsh on myself. But how I was able to get my book done, I use voice typing. So I actually just spoke my book into existence. I use my talents, right? I love to talk. I love to speak. So I was just talking out loud about what it is that I want to teach and what are the important lessons and what stories from my childhood that I remember that were most instrumental into me understanding like the different things around money, like the fact that my family didn't have a lot of money. And so I recorded a lot of voice notes and I did voice typing a lot into a blank Google Doc. And then all of that combined into one giant document that we were able to edit and cut down and clean up and tighten up and revise to send it as the draft manuscript for my book. So it's called Mind Your Money. It's very basic financial literacy, great for somebody who's fresh out of college or fresh out of high school, or maybe they're doing their first or second job out of college and just starting to kind of get their toes wet with receiving their own paycheck and what's this 401k thing that my job is telling me about. Like my book is really good for beginners. And it's really a combination of stories and also strategy. So it's a lot about like budgeting, but also through stories of how I was terrible at budgeting, or like investing, but through stories of how I learned about investing, so that you're not feeling like it's a textbook, but more so you feel like you're just sitting at a coffee shop with this girl who's telling you crazy stories about money and then weaving in money lessons throughout the book.
I love it. Thank you so much, Yanely, for all of your work. Thank you for how invested you are in the future of all of our children. It has been such an honor and such a pleasure to get to work with you on this. And hopefully it's just the very beginning, honestly.
I know.
Hopefully we get to do more stuff together in the future. I appreciate you believing in me and advocating for me through this process as well. It has blessed me in so many more ways than you can imagine. Like,
that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could not picture a better person to be the face of this bill, to be the one driving this effort, because truly, like, I've read your book. I know your story and your passion for it, but like how this really drives our communities to understand it's more than just money, right? This is like truly a tool for empowerment. And your story is like the perfect story for that, for how this can truly change your life and transform your life. And so, I mean, I'm honored. I'm so glad to have you pushing this and working with us. And I know it is really just the beginning, because once you do get a bill like this signed into law, then the implementation starts. Then they actually have to implement the thing. Then the schools have to start doing it. And that's when we don't want to leave them hanging. We want to go and support that process and make sure that what they have what they need. And that, of course, we're going to be training the teachers and giving them curriculum resources and all of that. But that we're paying attention, because if they're struggling and they have challenges, we're not just going to leave them hanging. Oh, well, we passed the bill already, so you're on your own. Like, no, we're going to keep the conversation going and make sure we're supporting schools. And I know that you're the perfect person to rely on for that. So many lawmakers, they get caught up. They're busy. It was just something that they did as a favor. But that was not the case with you. So I'm really, really happy that we got to collaborate on it. And I'm honestly just so excited to see the success of this bill and then beyond, right? Like what happens after this when all the families and students get this critical financial education.
Yes, for sure. I already am thinking in the interim, I want to make sure that I'm going to all of my high schools and making sure that they're engaged and they're executing the curriculum and making sure they're getting set up in the training and whatever they need. But I want to be an advocate for them and a champion for them to execute it as well, because those are the kids in my district. I want to make sure that the kids in my district are taken care of in this way. And we know that there's no better way than to be taken care of financially, because money isn't everything, but it sure does solve almost everything.
That's right. No, it's so funny. At the Senate education hearing, there was a teacher named Jennifer Mitchell who was testifying. And she said this quote that it stuck with me. She said, personal financial literacy cannot be an elective, because elective means optional. Mm-hmm. But financial literacy, knowing how to deal with your money, is not an option.
Yes.
It's not something that is optional in life. You must figure out money regardless of whether you end up being a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, whether you become an airman in the Air Force or, join the Army, or whether you start your own business, or whether you're a custodian, or whatever you do for money, you will make money and you will have to understand that money. So it's not optional. And I was just like, yes, that's exactly what we've been trying to drive home. It can't just be an elective. It's not just optional. Every single one of us has to navigate money. And so to your point, like, it's one of the most critical aspects of our lives. It's not the most important thing. It's not the end all be all. It's not everything in life, but it directly connects to so many other outcomes for us, for health outcomes, for nutrition outcomes, for opportunities that we have, whether you're able to travel or not, what kind of lifestyle you can provide for yourself and your family. All of this is directly connected to your understanding of money and what behaviors you have with your money and what you choose to do with money. So I think like earning income, understanding how to navigate your budget, your investments, your insurance, protecting your money, taxes, all of these things are so important. And that's exactly what this personal financial literacy class teaches.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Where can we find you?
So if you like the work that we're doing at NGPF and you want to check out the free curriculum and the free games and lessons and all that, you don't have to create an account to access it. You can go right now, ngpf.org, and check out all the resources. It's all free. You have to be a teacher to create an account and actually access the workshops and the answer keys, but everybody can still access the games and the lessons. So that's ngpf.org. And then if you want to follow me on social media, that's Miss Be Helpful, MISSBE Helpful. And that's on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, all the places, on LinkedIn, all of those places. You can search Miss Be Helpful and I'll pop up. And then if you want to check out my book, or you want to buy a couple copies of my book for your local school, that's really a great thing. You can get the book at mindyourmoneybook.com.
And what about your podcast? Let us know about your podcast.
Yes. So 2 podcast projects I'm working on. One right now is with Marketplace, where I host Financially Inclined, which is a podcast for teenagers specifically. So if there's a teen or college kid in your life who needs money lessons, Financially Inclined from Marketplace, it comes out every Friday. We just wrapped season 4 and we've covered so many different topics. And then I have a podcast called Mind Your Money with Miss Be Helpful, which has probably maybe 5 or 6 seasons already out about tons of different topics. And I've interviewed a lot of different women specifically because, women are very underrepresented in finance. So I wanted to overrepresent them on my podcast. And I'm going to be bringing it back with a lot more focus on topics from my book, which also shares the name Mind Your Money, and a little bit of a lens into the advocacy work. Because I've been doing this for a few years and I haven't talked a lot about it because it's like me trying to figure it out and navigating this whole new piece of my career. But I get a lot of questions about it. So we're going to be doing a series focusing just on advocacy like we had our conversation today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us. You're listening to Investies. You can find us at Investies Podcast on Instagram. And then, of course, you can listen to Investies on your favorite podcast player. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. A special thank you to the team, Eliza Smith, Asia Simpson, and Jacob Winnick.
Member Week is here at Lowe's. Don't miss your chance to get up to 40% off hundreds of items like paint, stain, tools, flooring, and more. Shop our exclusive deals happening in-store and online from May 8th through May 14th. Not a member? Join My Lowe's Pro Rewards for free today and get ready to save more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.